Once upon a time, high up in the velvet sky, nestled among countless twinkling stars, there lived a tiny star named Twinkle. Now, Twinkle wasn't like the other stars. Oh no! You see, Twinkle was a wee little thing, barely a pinprick of light compared to the grand, glowing orbs scattered across the inky expanse. And while the other stars shone with a steady, unwavering brilliance, Twinkle's glow was rather unpredictable. Sometimes she sparkled with joy, emitting bursts of brilliant light. Other times she flickered with sadness, dimming to a faint glimmer. And whenever a passing cloud obscured her light, Twinkle would sigh and long to be something more, wishing she could just shine like the big stars. One particularly dark and stormy night, as rain lashed against the earth and thunder rumbled overhead, Twinkle peeked out from behind a thick cloud cover. She was so disheartened by her dim glow that she almost missed the sight that made her heart skip a beat. A tiny human, no bigger than her starlight, had become lost in the woods. The little one was soaked to the bone, shivering and calling out for help. And as Twinkle watched, a wave of determination washed over her. This was her chance to do something special, to make a difference in the world, no matter how small she might seem. Taking a deep breath, Twinkle pushed through the clouds, determined to guide the lost child home. At first, her light was barely noticeable, just a faint glimmer amidst the raging storm. But as she focused her energy, her light grew, pushing back the darkness and illuminating the path ahead. Seeing this, the little ones stopped crying and looked up. Hope filled their eyes as they saw Twinkle's light guiding them through the dark. And with each step closer to home, Twinkle's light grew brighter. Soon the child was safe and sound, snuggled up in bed, fast asleep and dreaming of a kind star who helped them on a dark and stormy night. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Twinkle grew tired. But before drifting off to sleep, she heard a voice. It was the moon, and she was smiling. "Little star," she said, "your kindness makes you shine the brightest of all." In a realm where rolling hills met sparkling seas, nestled amidst fields of swaying grass and whispering trees, lived a plump and pampered princess. Her life was a series of delightful events, grand balls, flowing gowns, and adoring admirers. But one day, while strolling through the royal gardens, she stumbled upon a sight that made her stop in her tracks. It was a small, unassuming rabbit with fur as white as snow and eyes as shiny as jet. The princess had never seen such a creature before, and couldn't resist its charm. She reached out to pet it, and the rabbit, unafraid, rubbed against her hand, purring like a contented cat. From that moment on, the rabbit, whom the princess named Pippin, became her constant companion. They played hide and seek among the rose bush, shared juicy berries, and laughed as they chased butterflies together. And though some courtiers gossiped about the princess's unusual friend, she didn't care. She loved Pippin dearly. But Pipkin's carefree days came to an abrupt end when the princess's father, the king, announced a royal decree. He planned to build a new road right through their beloved garden. Worse still, the road would lead to a neighboring kingdom, a place rumored to be home to a fearsome dragon known for its ferocious nature and fiery breath. Overnight, the idea of a pleasant stroll through the garden was replaced by anxious whispers of a terrifying monster lurking nearby. And as the construction of the road commenced, everyone, including the princess, became consumed with fear. They barricaded themselves inside the castle, refusing to venture outside. Even the birds stopped singing and the flowers wilted without anyone to admire them. Days turned into weeks, and the once vibrant garden became a shadow of its former self. But Pippin refused to give in to fear. Every day, he'd hop to the edge of the garden, peering out into the distance. And every time the others scolded him for being so reckless, he'd simply shake his head and say, "There's nothing to fear. I'm going to find that dragon and befriend him." They all shook their heads in disapproval, thinking Pippin had lost his mind, but Pippin was determined. And so one day, he slipped out of the castle unnoticed and ventured into the Forbidden's territory. As he hopped along, pushing aside blades of grass with his nose, he heard a deep voice. "Who goes there?" Startled, Pippin turned and saw the most magnificent creature he'd ever laid eyes on. It was a dragon, just as everyone had described, except instead of being fierce and menacing, the dragon looked sad. "Don't be afraid," said Pippin bravely. "I'm here to be your friend." The dragon blinked in surprise. A friend? He echoed, his voice cracking with emotion. No one has ever wanted to be my friend before. Why do you want to be my friend? Pippin asked. And then he told the dragon about his adventures in the royal garden, about the beautiful princess and the happy times they'd shared. As he spoke, the dragon perked up, his eyes gleaming with interest. When Pippin finished, the dragon let out a long sigh. You know, he said, it's been so long since someone has spoken to me kindly that I'd forgotten what it felt like. And with that, the dragon and the rabbit became friends. Together, they explored the land beyond the garden, discovering hidden waterfalls, secret caves, and meadows filled with the sweetest berries. And after many happy days, Pippin knew it was time to return to the castle. He had to convince the others that there was nothing to fear from the dragon. So he raced back to the castle, bursting through the doors and shouting, "I found the dragon, and he's not scary at all. He's just lonely." At first, no one believed him. They all thought he was crazy. But Pippin insisted, and eventually, led by the princess, they all went to see the dragon for themselves. And when they realized he meant no harm, they apologized for their hasty judgments. From that day on, the princess and her friends visited the dragon often, bringing him news from the kingdom and sharing stories and laughter. And as years passed, the dragon was no longer feared but respected and cherished by all. Pippin had shown them that true bravery wasn't about size or strength, but about the size of one's heart. In the velvety darkness of twilight, when the sun had dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with hues of lavender and gold, the moon would rise, casting her silvery glow over the sleeping world. Each night, as the moon sailed across the sky, she'd sing a gentle lullaby to lull the world into slumber. Her song was a soothing melody, a harmonious blend of starlight and dreams, which calmed the restless winds and soothed the anxious hearts of mortals. Animals would hush their nightly chatter, the leaves would still their rustling, and even the crickets would chirp softly, harmonizing with the moon's enchanting tune. And as the moon's lullaby echoed through the night, the humans below would drift into blissful sleep, their worries and troubles fading away with the last notes of the moon's song. But one night, as the moon journeyed across the celestial canvas, she felt a strange heaviness in her chest. It was exhaustion. She hadn't slept in eons, and the endless nights were finally catching up with her. With a heavy heart, the moon whispered her final notes, bidding farewell to the world she'd watched over for millennia. As the lost echoes of her song faded into the night, a blanket of silence fell over the land. The animals stirred, confused by the sudden quiet. The leaves rustled restlessly, and even the clouds seemed to part in curiosity. For a moment, all was still, and then the fireflies began to blink their tiny lights in confusion. Soon, the owls hooted their queries, and the wind rustled through the trees, carrying musical notes that rose to the heavens. It was the wind's way of asking, "What happened to the moon's song?" And as the chorus of confusion grew, a soft voice cut through the din. It was the moon, and though she was tired, she was also touched by the concern of the world she loved. With a gentle smile, she whispered, "My dear friends, I'm just resting for a bit, but I can't bear the thought of you being frightened. So I have a plan. Why don't we all sing together?" And so the fireflies blinked their lights in time with the music. The owls hooted in harmony, and the wind carried sweet melodies through the starlit sky. As the moon watched, a warm feeling spread through her, chasing away the exhaustion. She might need to rest, she realized, but she wasn't alone. They were all in this together. And as the night wore on, the moon's smile grew wider. The music was beautiful, and she knew that even when she grew too tired to sing, the world would be all right because they had each other. And with that comforting thought, the moon closed her eyes, content to listen to the wondrous music echoing through the universe. And as these stories come to an end, may your dreams be filled with kindness, courage, and wonder. Good night, little dreamers. Sleep tight, and may the magic of fairy tales stay in your heart until morning.